Right. I will start with my opening statement, as always. Welcome all to the Subject and Overview Scrutiny Committee 3 meeting, which, due to government advice to the public to practice social distancing, will be held virtually with committee members and officers accessing this meeting from remote locations. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed. Please can everyone ensure that all mobile phones are switched off or to silent mode. Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda on Tuesday, the 22nd of June. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their cameras on at that point. But I would ask, with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times, you keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimize any background noise and interference and to ensure the connection remains as stable as possible. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Officers from Scrutiny will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting, and where necessary, will mute those being used. If any members wish to speak to raise a point or question, they should please click on the raised hand button at the top of the Teams window, and I will come to you in turn. Please do not use the instant messaging chat to enter questions or comments. I will now ask the scrutiny officer, Meryl or Tracy, whomever, to announce the names of the councillors in attendance at this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. The members of the committee in attendance presently are yourself, Councillor John Paul Blundell as Chair, Councillor Nora Clark, Councillor David Edwards, Councillor Gareth Howells, Councillor John McCarthy, Councillor James Radcliffe, Councillor Rod Shaw, Councillor John Spanswick, Councillor Ros Sturman, Councillor Gary Thomas, Councillor Lynn Walters, Councillor Alex Williams and Councillor Julia Williams.
Fabulous. Thank you, Tracy. Did anyone not get called out then? Hang on, for some reason my computer's being this stuff. Councillor Gareth Howells.
Yes, Chair. Councillor Paul Davis, I know, is having problems trying to connect. He's endeavouring to try and get in, so just he is on his way. I know that. It just depends his connection works. Okay, thank you, Chair. Just
no
for the
worries. Thank you, Gareth. That's not a problem. Okie dokie. All right, that brings us on to apologies for absence then. I've only got one, Councillor David Lewis. Are there any more apologies for absence from any members? About other members, obviously? No? Okay, then we'll crack on. Declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of interest from members or officers about today's meeting. Anyone got any declarations of interest? No? Fabulous. Okay, that brings us on to item 3 then of our agenda, Corporate Parenting Champion Nomination Report. Tracy, you're going to take, oh, Meryl, you're coming in, so I'm assuming you're taking us through this one.
Thank you, Chair. So the report begins on page 3 of members' agenda packs. The committee is requested to nominate one member as its corporate parenting champion to represent the committee as an invitee at meetings of the Cabinet Committee Corporate Parenting. Previous nomination last year was Councillor James Radcliffe. The role of the corporate parenting champion is to represent their overview and scrutiny committee in discussions relating to children in care and care leavers. Please can I ask for nominations from members of the committee?
No worries. Thank you for that, Meryl. Councillor James Radcliffe, you've got your little yellow hand up.
Yeah, just saying I'm happy to carry on doing it if members are happy for me to do so. As many of you know, my daughter is adopted, so there's a considerable overlap between the training you get for that and the knowledge required for the role. So
fabulous.
I'd like to second that, Chair.
Yeah,
Thank you, Councillor Clark and Councillor Thomas. I think members are all happy with you to carry on, Councillor Radcliffe, so unless anyone else has any objections. No, you're all good then. Thank you, Councillor Radcliffe, and thank you very much for stepping forward there. We'll come now to agenda item 4, which is the PSB Scrutiny Panel. Meryl, are you going to take us through this one again?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The report starts on page 7 of members' agenda packs. The purpose of this report is to request the committee to nominate
Councillor
Yeah.
Gareth Howells.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to renominate Councillor Paul Davis, please.
Would anyone second that?
I'd like to second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Anyone any other nominations, or are we all happy to nominate Councillor Paul Davis? I'm not seeing anyone coming in. Yep, fabulous. Thank you for that, Councillor Davis, in your absence. Thank you, Councillor Howells and Thomas. So that's our nominee. So we'll go to agenda item 5 now. The reason we're all here, the Forward Work Programme update. Meryl?
Thank you, Chair. So the report begins on page 11 of members' agenda packs. The Council's constitution requires the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee to develop and implement a forward work programme for the committees. The Council's constitution also provides for each subject overview and scrutiny committee to propose items for the forward work programme, having regard for the Council's corporate priorities and risk management framework for the COSC to then prioritise and schedule. Forward work programmes need to be manageable to maximise the effective use of the limited time and resources of scrutiny committees. It's not possible to include every topic proposed. Successful scrutiny is about looking at the right topic in the right way, and members need to be selective while also being able to demonstrate clear arguments for including or excluding topics. Following the approval of the schedule of scrutiny committee meeting dates at the annual meeting of Council on the 19th of May, the standing statutory reports to scrutiny committees have been scheduled, for example, the medium-term financial strategy, performance, the corporate plan, budget monitoring, etc., and mapped into a draft forward work programme. The draft forward work programme for this committee is attached as Appendix A and has been prepared by the team using a number of different sources, including the corporate risk assessment, Directorate business plans, previous scrutiny committee forward work programme report topics and minutes, committee member proposed topics, the policy framework, the cabinet work programme, discussions with corporate directors and the performance team regarding the timing of performance information. The subject overview and scrutiny committee draft forward work programmes will be reported to the next meeting of COSC with the feedback from each respective subject overview and scrutiny committee for coordination and oversight of the overall forward work programme. And the SOC forward work programme will be included in the standard forward work programme update report from then on to each committee for members to review and reprioritise and consider invitees, etc. So the report, the Appendix A is before the committee, and the recommendations are in paragraph 9. I'll hand back to you, Chair, for any questions from members.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Meryl. Do any members have any questions about the Forward Work Programme? And does anyone have any ideas of people they'd like to invite for our next meeting on the 19th of July? Councillor John Spanswick, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Let's take a hand up as well. Yeah, the July 1, the massive topic of waste service contract, or there is a waste management services, perhaps is a better title. It's not just about the existing contract runs out in 2024. There's a couple of things I think are crucial we should be asking for. One, most importantly, is a timeline from here to wherever we go in, whether it's in-house or further contract. There's no good getting a year down the road and the officers say, oh, too late now to consider doing this or doing that, because that's what happened last time. We missed the boat. And the more I read about things in the last couple of months, we own the depot in Tondy. We are spending money on repairs in Tondy. We own the depot. Then we know how it works. Personally, we need to have a serious look at this report. Needs to have real detail about how we, because Kira made it clear they're not interested in the contract in the future, but we need a detailed report of how it starts up again if it was decided to be in-house.
Yeah.
As well as all the details about the recycling and how much money is made on recycling or not, and the recycling plants. So what I'd be really disappointed if we end up having a report saying, well, we could do this, that, or that, but but we're not really there yet. Then we'll come back another day. This meeting in July, from a scrutiny point of view, I think it's crucial to have some real clear pointers for the future of where scrutiny perhaps thinks it could or should go. And we need the right officers there able to answer questions, not I'll come back to you on that, I'll come back to you on this. It's crunch time, I think, 19th of July for the future of waste management in Bridgend.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Spencer. I agree with you. I think the way I see that that update going is that we're going to start the process of how we look at our waste service going forward. What ideas can this committee offer to what we want to see our waste contract look at? Taking from our experience of the past and moving towards something in the future. So I see that, and I believe Janine, the corporate director, sees that the same way with this, is that this is going to start the process of how our waste contract service will look. But I'll shut up and I'll bring in members.
Okay, the timeline, sorry, Chair, the timeline is the crunch one because
absolutely.
Used as an excuse in the past.
Yeah, Meryl, I'm sure Meryl's put that down, so we'll ask of that for the corporate director. Councillor Clark, Nora Clark.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I totally agree with what's been said, what John has said. And of course, if we are changing contracts or whatever we decide to do, what we don't want is the mess up that we had at the beginning of this contract where people didn't have bags, etc., etc. It was a right mess. I know I spent a lot of time dealing with constituents that didn't have the right equipment. In fact, I had equipment here that I was taking out and given to constituents. But I wanted to move on to the decarbonisation strategy to make sure that we've got a good update when it actually comes to us. Not only about low emission vehicles, but details of where within the county borough we have charging points. What charging points are they? I know that there are particular ones up at MacArthur Glen for Tesla, but if you haven't got a Tesla, then you haven't got a charging point. So I'd be interested to know where the charging points are around the county borough, how many there are, and how we're going to provide more within the future. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's an important question about the infrastructure. There's no point just having these vehicles. I know the idea of they also ties in with the waste service because we're also going to have battery power, electrical powered waste trucks. So that as well with the taxis coming in with the city deal. So I think that's an important question about its infrastructure. I'm sure Meryl's made a note of that to make sure that's in the report. Meryl, you're coming in, yeah? You're on mute, Meryl.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. I was just going to say, picking up all of those points, obviously we'll take those back, and also they're things that we can raise in the meeting with yourself and the director as well.
Fabulous, thank you, Meryl. I have Councillor Gareth Howells next.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to endorse the comments of Councillor Spanswick and Councillor Clark regarding the waste contract. I think that's obviously there's been a lesson learned there. The other point I wanted to say was I wanted to come in on the issue about the decarbonisation, and I think the issue there that Councillor Clark has touched on about the charging points, I think that is something is crucial, and I think probably what we need to find out is I thought there was going to be a standard connector for the cars. I know Tesla had their own because they were the first, but I thought there was a move afoot to standardize the cable for charging the cars. So perhaps a bit of information and clarification on that, because I think Councillor Clark's quite right when she says that we could end up duplicating charging points if they're not all of a standard form. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no problem. That ties in nicely with Councillor Clark's point there. Councillor Lynn Walters.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I agree with everything that's been said on both the contracts, but the one I'm concerned about is the number of referrals that have been going in on waste, which may not be, Kier may have been having difficulties collecting rubbish due to other issues that the council manages. So from highways, double yellow lines, parked cars, etc., etc. So I would like some way that the analysis of members' referrals over the last 12, 18 months, an analysis of that to actually understand what other things, apart from some Kier specific issues, knock-on impacts that Kier have had to actually deliver the existing contract, and what are the learns from that for how is that going to feed into the design of any new contract? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see your point. What could we do as a council to make the running of the waste contract even smoother?
Absolutely.
And, yeah, I think that's a perfectly valid point, and I'm sure Meryl Tracy have made that a note, and they'll ask. I think Zach Shell's writing the report, but so I think that'll be an hand over on that. No problem. Councillor Keith Edwards or David Edwards.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Coming back to the refuse collection, I think there should be an item on the agenda at set periods going forward. We don't want to be railroaded as we were last time into a contract that could be described as not fit for purpose. Kier have made it quite clear that they are pulling out of the contract. And when a company tells you that, then obviously you're not, the service you're going to get going forward for the remainder of the contract is always questionable. I think that this isn't a one-off debate. It should be put on the forward work programme at a set period so we can have continued updates and ask the relevant questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. No, I agree. I think that ties in with Councillor John Spanswick's point of having a timeline, because then we'll be able to come in at set points and go, well, where are you? Where are the updates? I think that's perfectly reasonable, and I think I'm not sure if it would be tidy to put an update in later in February, but we can definitely ask that question. And obviously, our forward work programme is fluid, so we can change it if we believe we can get an update later on early next year or after the elections. That's perfectly reasonable. Councillor Gary Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I fully agree with all the words John just said, but the biggest problem we got is to order these vehicles. It takes between 3 and 4 years to get these vehicles. And if you need to go forward, we need to move now. And John is fully aware. The last time we asked this in the meeting, and Zach said it'll take a long time to order these vehicles. So we need to put our foot on the bloody brake and sort things out. Because Kia's not doing it right. We know we can do it right, because we've had this contract for many, many years until it went out. And we need to bring it back in. Thank you, Chair.
No problem, Councillor. No, I agree. I think the point again ties in with the timeline thing, and we start the process as early as possible so we can hit the ground running on day one. Thank you for that. Councillor Ross Sturman.
Thank you, Chair. I am aware that at the start of the pandemic, the original pandemic in 2020, Communities Directorate had taken on around half a dozen electric powered vehicles. I would like a report on their performance to be included in this, if possible, please. Thank you. Yeah, I think that can come under the ULEV report and what we've got so far and how that's working out. I don't know. Fine. Thank you.
I've got no one with their hands up now. Councillor Thomas, remember to turn your camera off.
Sorry, Chair.
That's all right. I forget sometimes as well. That's perfectly fine. So I think we've talked about the next agenda, the next meeting. So I think is there anything else about the further on from that about the forward work programme that members would like to have any comments on? Is there anything else in the forward work programme members would like to talk about, or is there something they think should be in there? Councillor Gareth Howells.
I'm interested, Chair, in the forward work programme item that relates to external economic funding, because obviously the issue with there is that there's been some change in the way that you know, our council and I think it's Caerphilly have been excluded from some of the funding that's going to come directly from London. It usually came when we were part of the EU. So I'd like to have some information on that, what the potential implications of that when we have a meeting in September, please, Chair, because I think that could have a serious consequences for economic developments and what the council can do to support businesses or encourage businesses to invest in the county borough. So I would like that. The other issue I'd like to raise is in relation to, and it's probably looking forward again, and that's in relation to transport projects, because I think for the Llanview Valley members, I think you know the sort of concern we have is that the proposal to put the loop in on the railway line, I think that's something that needs to be sort of we've been promised that for a number of years. For whatever reason, Network Rail has been dragging its feet, and I would like to suggest that we invite Network Rail and Transport to Wales to that meeting to give an explanation, because it also ties in with the fact that there will be review of bus services, and Transport to Wales will be corporately looking at the potential to move forward on bus services. So I think those two issues are crucial to us in the county borough, whereby, you know, there are not many railway lines, but there are a lot of bus services. You know, we've seen some recent issues in the top end of the valley, and I'd like to see some work, some information on that as well. Thank you, Chair.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor Howells. I think that's perfectly reasonable, and I think the earlier we invite TFW, the more chance we are of getting them. So yeah, perfectly happy with that. I'm sure Meryl and Tracy's made a note of that. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone with their hands up, so I'm taking it we're all happy with what we've got so far. As I said, we can change this when and if we want to. It's a very fluid document. Okie dokie then. I think, Meryl, are we all done? Oh, hang on. Councillor John Spanswick?
Yeah, just thinking on the bottom of page 17, it's member development sessions. There's one there about priorities and maintenance. So do we need to ideally have that after the scrutiny report or before?
I think in chatting with the director, I think we were going to say before, because then it gives us a baseline knowledge going into the scrutiny meeting.
Right, okay.
If that makes any sense, because obviously there are members who, like yourself, who will know more than others.
There's no date set. Or October, I can see it on the bottom, yeah. To be arranged October.
Yeah. I think the idea was definitely late October. Yeah.
Okie doke, thanks.
No worries. Thank you very much. Meryl, you're on mute again.
Sorry. Yes, Chair, that was definitely to be delivered before the report, so that there was a background knowledge across the board.
Fabulous. Okay. I'm assuming that's a legacy hand, Councillor Spanswick?
Sorry, yes it is, yeah, sorry.
No worries. No worries. Okay, no one else has indicated they wish to come in on the forward work programme. So do I need it moved, Meryl? Do we need it moved and seconded?
Move, Chair, in line with all the comments and recommend.
Yeah,
Second, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, Chair.
That's all right.
Yes, that's great, thanks.
No worries. All right then, so that's the forward work programme update. Now, I'm assuming I'm not missed anything because Meryl hasn't said anything. The last thing I have then is urgent items. I have no urgent items. No one has indicated to me of any urgent items, so I'm going to call the meeting at 9:55. Thank you everyone for coming today.
Thank you, Chair.